This week on the Grassroots podcast.
You have kids specializing at the age of 5, 6. Like, oh yeah, they gotta go to this training session, and they have personal trainers.
I started hockey probably like you when I was 4 years old, and I played hockey all the way growing up, and I picked lacrosse up later on.
Alrighty, hi, I'm John.
And I'm Quincy, and this is the Grassroots podcast, the #1 podcast for everything grassroots in Australia. And we are here on our very first episode.
The pilot, I'm very excited about this. The pilot. So, like Quincy said, we're talking about grassroots sports, but we're also talking, this podcast is for the athletes, helping them navigate through the turbulent times that they have to go through, the ups and downs, tryouts, anything that deals the day in the life of an athlete. Absolutely. Whether it's their nutrition, whether it's their training, whether it's dealing with coaches, dealing with parents, because we always have to deal with parents.
Gotta deal with parents.
Unfortunately, but we love them, but we have to deal with them.
They buy us our equipment.
Yes. But if you've seen our podcast intro, then you'll know what this is all about. Yep. But we'll be discussing all the hot topics related to emerging sports in Australia and empowering you to grow your grass sport within your community.
Yes.
So, and then we're going to also have special guests.
Special guests, like these two guys.
These two guys, they're great.
They're special, I think.
We're happy to be
Kinda
here.
special.
They're from the States, so
but we'll get to these guys later. We'll get to
It's not your turn yet, guys. Settle down.
But today we'll be discussing multi-sport athletes.
Yes.
Later on the show, we'll be hearing from one of our special guests, which is Jase, who is from Enliven Nutrition, who is going to be giving us nutritional and training needs for athletes undertaking multiple sports.
Absolutely. I need some nutritional advice. I cannot lie.
Yeah, I know, me too. I don't
struggle bus.
I would say, yes, but as Quincy said earlier, John, you're looking great, so you may not need any nutritional tips. But multi-sport athletes. I know growing up, I played multiple sports. I played ice hockey, I played baseball. I even dabbled in the soccer. Actually, I was I'm going to say a soccer star, a self-proclaimed soccer star. It was still recreational.
Foot fairy over there?
I was lighting my toes. But I played multiple sports, and I just remember it was just more about being an athlete. I remember kids that were like on the playground, they were good at tag, they were good at this sport, that sport. It wasn't just one thing. I know nowadays everyone wants to specialize. You have kids specializing at the age of 5, 6. Like, oh yeah, they got to go to this training session, and they have personal trainers. I even have people come to us, like for NSA hockey, and like, oh, I want you to personally train my child. And to be honest, I don't know if they actually need it. Usually I just tell them just do more skating or just do things like this. But I personally think that you should play multiple sports, because as a hockey player, if I'm working on baseball, that's hand-eye coordination. That's working with my core muscles to be able to swing into a bat, or it's being able to go from 0 to 100, accelerating towards a ball and reacting to it. Or if I'm playing soccer, that means that I'm quick on my feet and I have the agility. So I think having different sports and playing different sports out of your season is great. But that's more the physical side.
Absolutely.
Now, the mental side of it, it refreshes your brain. I mean, after a season, I tell most players, get away from the sport. Especially like if you're playing 6 months, 7 months out of the year, get away from it, refresh your mind, just refresh. It re-energizes you. So then once you get back on the ice, once you get back on the field, then it's like, that spark comes back. Because the reason why we play sports is because it's fun. And when it's just becoming mundane and over, I think you lose that excitement and you lose that little bit.
Definitely. To be honest with you, most sports, especially at the younger age, like club sports or recreational or township league or even middle school, elementary school leagues, usually each sport has its own season. So usually it doesn't run into another season. So for me, playing football was fall, lacrosse season came along, or baseball season came around, that was spring. It was a perfect way for me to stay fit, stay active, stay in condition for my main sport, which at the time was football or gridiron, as they would say here in Australia. But yeah, it flows really good together. And I think that a kid shouldn't just nail down what sport they want to play so early on, because as their body grows and as they develop, they may be more prone for a different sport. Like for me, I was a little husky kid. I wore husky clothes, you know. I don't know.
You did wear husky.
I don't know if that's the real like size.
No, it is. Like size 12. You have like skinny legs, and you had size 12H.
Yeah, right. So I was wearing straight legs back then. No, but like I was husky growing up, and so I was always on the O line or the D line playing football. But as I got older, as I got taller and I slimmed out, defense wasn't the best position for me anymore. But for some reason, I had those defensive tendencies for growing up, playing the D line, playing defense in every sport I played. So when I moved to lacrosse, I was able to still be a long pole, but I had the speed to play attack or midfield. So I think, as you grow up, you should just kind of narrow it down as you get to your high school and you want to start focusing. But at a young age, you should play every sport, just depending on the season.
Awesome. So we have these fine young gentlemen here. They are from my alma mater, Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, RPI. For those who don't know, it is in Troy, New York. It was established 1824 by Stephen Van Rensselaer. It was the first engineering school in the English-speaking world. It is amazing. I got a chemical engineering degree from there. John, you're working on
Biomedical engineering.
biomedical.
Yes.
You are working on mechanical. We have engineers in the house, and yes, and ironically, the school mascot is called the Engineers. So, like I said, we have John Phillips, who is a senior or graduating senior that played on the men's lacrosse team, and we have Kyle. You got to say it for me. I'm going to butcher it. Riccardi, who is a sophomore going into his junior season from the men's lacrosse team. So, gentlemen, kind of fill in the gaps from that introduction and go from there.
So as John said, I'm a senior at RPI. I grew up in upstate New York. Chose RPI just because it was close to home, a 3-hour drive, a little far away, but still close to home where I could go home when I wanted to. But big thing that attracted me was engineering and lacrosse. So
speaking about nutrition and home cooking, Jase is going to have to tell us about that. Mothers, make sure you pay attention. Kyle.
So basically, I grew up 2 hours straight south of where we are in school in Troy. I'm from Brewster, New York. I'm about 45 minutes north of the city.
I was about to say, you're pretty close to the city then.
Yeah, which is not upstate New York. Don't get that confused.
Yeah.
We get that a lot. I basically played every sport under the sun from a young age, and unfortunately had to just play lacrosse going to school. But I still play my intermittent.
So, okay, speaking of which, when did you narrow down to one sport?
College.
Yeah. So I guess high school, what sports did you play?
In high school, I played lacrosse, basketball, and football.
All right. And then out of those, I guess, was it a tough decision to make, or were you able to, I guess, make that decision based on what you were going to play at college? Were you recruited? I guess
pretty much just the opportunity. I got a few offers from football. Nothing too serious. D3.
Yep.
And just lacrosse and RPI were definitely just my best fit. So
now, during your high school season, did you feel that playing those three sports that it kept you refreshed, or did it drain you going from one to the next to the next?
I mean, because I played so many sports throughout my entire life, it was just what I was used to. I was never felt like it would have been weird to go into a season and have nothing to do. So I preferred it that way.
Yeah, and see, honestly, when it comes down to sports and school, I am partial to student athletes. I know with hockey, there's like two pathways. Usually, whether you can go major, junior, which is like Canadian hockey leagues, or you can go through the college route. Preferably, I like to go college because you have to deal with the rigor of being a student athlete, which most people do not understand. And it's just multitasking to the full. I wouldn't say multitasking, it's prioritizing to the fullest. So,
well, how about we let them explain what is being a student athlete? College sports is not really big here in Australia, so just give our listeners a little inside scoop of what it's like to be a college athlete.
I think the biggest thing with being a student athlete is just kind of student first. Like, we really have to work on that time management.
But is it really?
Yeah, I mean, some people don't think it is, but when it comes down to it, especially at a school like RPI, the big thing they stress there is the athletes are the ones that have the higher grade point averages than the non-athletes. So I think for kids that go to those top schools, they really have to focus on that student first. Mm-hmm. And for any kid at any school that's a student athlete, they really see that the student part comes first.
Yeah.
Or else they're not gonna get where they need to go later in life.
Now, can you is there guidelines for your playability or the time you can play regarding your grades?
Yeah, there definitely is. I mean, our coach has his own rules, and the school has their rules. I think each coach has a higher standard than what the school has. The school has kind of a minimum standard, but the coach really stresses focusing on school and getting their grades up to where he wants it to be, because every coach is really competing with the other sports that have the highest grade point average, and he gets grief from his boss if the students are performing. So he really wants to keep his students on an even keel to know where they're at.
It sounds like that's quite the schedule. Kind of give us some details on what your schedule looks like. So what's a day in the life?
For us, I mean, what is it? 25 hours a week, maybe more between film, practice, doing schoolwork, being on the practice field, I mean, it's a long journey throughout the season, but something that I think any student athlete comes to just kind of get used to, as Kyle said. And even though it's tough, you kind of learn how to prioritize everything and just try and even everything out so you can get everything done and still have fun when you can on the weekends.
How has being a college athlete kind of built discipline for you?
I mean, let's just put it this way: if I wasn't disciplined at this point, I wouldn't still be in school. It's just, I just don't think people understand necessarily the grind we go through. You know, having a game on a Wednesday night, 2 hours away at 6:00, and half the team is just on the bus, looking at textbooks or their laptops, trying to get in last minute studying.
For that test.
Exactly. Oh yeah, it's so true.
John understands it.
Oh yeah, I know the struggle.
Yeah.
So now, I guess growing up, when you guys were going into playing your multiple sports, when you, hey, I want to play this, I want to play that, was there a family influence, or was it mainly you saw something, you wanted to play it, and mom and dad put you into it?
For me, my big sports growing up were golf, hockey, and lacrosse. And two out of the three sports I played, my parents had no idea what they were. So I mean, my dad put me on the ice for hockey, and he had never been a part of hockey, and I took right to it.
So now, did you start hockey first, or did you play lacrosse first?
I started hockey first. I started hockey probably like you when I was 4 years old, and I played hockey all the way growing up, and I picked lacrosse up later on.
Now, you hear that a lot, the transition between hockey and lacrosse, and it's very similar. You see equipment companies, you see training development companies, ours being one, where you do see the parallel between playing hockey in the winter, playing lacrosse in the summers, and whatever.
Right.
So what skills did you gain from ice hockey that you said could translate into being on the lacrosse field?
I think both sports have a stick, whether it's on the ice or in the air. They both need hand-eye coordination, and both need that mental edge where you can read a play, anticipate a play, really see the whole field, see the whole ice, see a play developing. So I think those are the two big things that correlate between the two.
And seeing, that's something else, that's what we didn't mention before, but like you said, seeing the play and reaction time. That's another thing, along with the physicality, along with everything else that we said, being able to read and react off a play, and pretty much it's the same thing. Small area games, 2-on-1s, 3-on-1s, and just isolating the play. Kyle, with the sports that you played, which one did you start off with first as a kid?
Believe it or not, I started with. They probably started at the same time. I started bowling and soccer at the same time.
Tell us the rigor of a bowling game.
Well, I mean, a lot of wrist curls and. No, I mean that was more for fun than anything. My mom's is a pretty good bowler, so she kind of got me into that just for fun. But soccer I played pretty much from, I guess, whenever it starts till 6th, and then I switched to football in 6th grade. So I kind of started I started football a couple years later than most of my friends, but I pretty much went from soccer straight to football.
So the first thing I would think, football, aggressive, lacrosse, aggressive.
Right.
Did that part of it help you? But you played midfield, so.
Yeah, I mean, I actually didn't start lacrosse until my freshman year of high school. I played baseball my whole life.
Really?
So yeah, it's actually pretty funny because I remember my first game of lacrosse in 9th grade. So I guess just people told me it was a physical game, a lot of hitting. So I just was like, oh, football, hitting, sweet. So I get in my first game and I spent 3/4 of the game in the penalty box because I was just knocking bodies and stuff.
I know your pain.
Yeah.
I know your pain. But yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just the physicality of football and just the nonstop reacting and stuff, the defensiveness and stuff.
So speaking of that, the physicality of sports, do you feel that being physical sports, whether it's football, whether it's lacrosse, compared to a game I don't want to compare it to baseball. You played soccer, was that? Did you say? Okay. Compared to soccer, where, yes, there's an endurance factor, but I've noticed that there's a different type of endurance when it comes down to physical sports, when it's that constant contact and continuing to go. That hit, react, or hit, recover, then keep going. Did you notice that for yourself?
I mean, more honestly in basketball, just because, I know people don't really think of basketball as a physical sport, but, it is when you're, especially, because I was pretty tall growing up. I hit my growth spurts pretty early. And, boxing out down low and stuff, you're facing these bigger kids, these heavier kids and stuff, and you got to just put a shoulder into them, jump for a ball, come back down. There's a lot of stuff going on all at once, and there's just that physical aspect, okay, I know what I want to do with the ball, but in order for me to get the ball, I got to push this guy over here, so. I definitely like.
So see, there's so many things that you guys have mentioned. Like once again, their physicality, endurance, reaction time, that all came from different sports. So that's where I'm going to say it's great to play different sports. It's great to play multiple sports. It's also good to get away from your sport so you can get refreshed, and so that you're more like enlivened by it, and then you're going to produce and you're going to be able to perform better that way.
Absolutely. We had a young kid today who came out just to hang out with us at our holiday camp, lacrosse today, and I remember all of us trying to kind of convince him that he should be playing lacrosse when he's not playing hockey, and he kept coming back with, I'm too busy with hockey, I'm doing spring league, I'm doing this and that. How do you guys feel about that? That he was just so determined to just play one sport.
Can I say something? I'm sorry, I'm going to jump in there. I'm going to steal the mic again.
You own the mic, actually.
No, I don't. Okay, because see, that's a sensitive topic, because I know some kids, I would say here, because I've already seen how it is in the States, and how you do have kids that will practice 3-4 times a week, and then on top of that they'll play other sports. So they're literally doing something every night. Sometimes they're doing 2 things a night, and people will talk about the burnout factor, and like those kids aren't getting burned out. Personally, myself, I never use that. Sometimes it can be true where you get burned out. Personally, I've never felt that. I've never been burnt out. I've played long seasons. I played, where I go the whole season and playoffs, and then do something spring league, and then hop back into it. I don't know. I just never used it as an excuse. So then when I hear kids here, especially in the hockey arena, where they practice once a week, and then they play 1 game, possibly 2 on the weekend. And then at the same time, they do have those dreams, goals, and aspirations of playing in the States. And because even Gretzky was here recently. Yes. That was pretty cool.
Shout out to Gretzky.
Yeah. And he made a quote that I would think, I'm going to say JFK quoted it before Gretzky did, but Gretzky made a quote about, in the 90s, that no one would have thought that you would have had a kid drafted from Arizona in the NHL, because Arizona was not a hockey hotbed. But now that's usual. You can, anyone from the States, doesn't matter if you're from Texas, Arizona, anyone can be drafted. Earlier this year, I was at the National Development Program for Australia, and I gave him the talk about Bruce Banner. Bruce Banner, the guy that ran the 4-minute mile. Everyone knows the story. I'm not going to go into it. Long story short, scientists thought it was physically impossible to do that, but this guy was crazy enough. Scientists declared that it was physically impossible to run a 4-minute mile. So everyone's like, you can't do it. Then this guy was crazy enough to believe in himself, and he did it. He does it, and guess what? Next year, 8 people do it. The following year, exponentially. And then now, that's the standard. Right. So I'm saying the same thing is going to happen here. If you want to get to that level, you have to be willing to be able to be on the ice 2, 3, 4 times a week, because you're not going to burn out. We've seen other kids do it, and they haven't burned out. So when you're saying hey, play lacrosse, I can't, I got this and that. You should be playing multiple sports, especially as a kid, because you never know what's going to spark your interest, and you don't know how that's going to help you. So in certain areas, I would say travel soccer here, different story. Those kids are on the field 5 times a week, plus they're playing games on the weekend. In the hockey field, maybe even on the lacrosse field, or on the hockey arena, and even in lacrosse, with the smaller grassroots sports, I think people are so afraid of going too hard, and they want to make that fun factor. You're not going to take the fun factor out of it, but you are going to create an elite class. And from an elite class, that's where you have breakthrough.
Absolutely.
So that's how I feel about that.
Yeah. So do you need a glass of water after all that talking?
Maybe. That was it was a hot take. It was a JFK hot take, all right?
Value bombs over here. But going back to, he was mentioning about being young and going and playing those sports and being so passionate about it that you want to play, and believing, the guy who did the 4-minute mile, believing that he could do it. Yeah. How did you guys, I guess, growing up, believing, what sport you guys wanted to do and the passion behind it? I guess, how did your parents rally around that? Did they just kind of say, you're going to do this sport? Or are you no, Ma, I really want to play hockey. I love hockey. Yeah, elaborate on that.
I mean, for me, as I said before, my big thing growing up was hockey. And from the very start, my dad had no idea about hockey. And as soon as he saw that I took a liking to it, he wanted me to do every single camp I could to get as good as I could. And when he started to see me improving, he saw that I had some hopes to go on and play high school hockey and continue on and maybe even try and go past that. And so he was doing everything he could, taking me everywhere I wanted to go, whether that be to a different state, to a different country. he was taking me anywhere I wanted to go. So I think when a parent sees any promise they can see like early on, they'll do whatever they can to just kind of go on their kids' dreams and aspirations and try and achieve them.
Absolutely. I can relate to that. Me and John both. Our dad was always putting us in the sport and whatever we wanted to do. Every season he was asking, hey, do you want to play this? Or what do you want to play? Do you want me to sign you up for soccer? And he was very supportive, buying us equipment, taking us to like Major League Baseball games, kind of giving us that experience. And I would give a lot of credit to our parents, that we made it so far in sports because of the support, because of them believing in us as well. On a side note, because I mentioned equipment, and this is something like our dad always taught us, is like you just don't get the new equipment, the best equipment, because you play. You have to earn it. How do you guys feel about that? I mean, when you guys growing up having the best gear, did you have the Nike Tiger Woods clubs? Or?
No. I think for me, I mean, I don't know about you playing hockey, but when I grew up, every pair of skates I got was used.
Yep.
I bought used skates all the way growing up, just because they already came preformed. I mean, they were cheaper. They weren't brand new. You didn't need brand new skates to skate. You could use anything that worked. So I was always trying to find the used equipment that was a little cheaper. I don't know about Kyle, but
Kyle, you look fancy.
I mean, I wasn't always this fancy. No, I mean, up until like high school, if I needed a pair of basketball shoes, I just went to like a store nearby and just those. I look like I can run in those, like something like that. Football equipment, a lot of it is provided by the school, so I got lucky there. And then lacrosse, because I was new to the sport, I kind of just went into, we have a Lacrosse Unlimited store, and went there with my dad, and I was like, well, that looks kind of cool, like, I guess I'll just go with that, just kind of hope for the best. So I didn't even know what top of the line equipment looked like, but yeah, other than that, I wasn't really all into the, gotta look the best to be the best,
Yeah, that's right. So as you guys played multi-sports growing up, what did off-season training look like? Did you just use the other sport for training, or were you also doing dry land stuff? Were you also in the weight room?
I also played soccer growing up, and I think when I was younger, hockey always just kind of revolved around playing soccer, and that was just running around and staying fit. But as I got older, and as I grew into hockey and lacrosse, it was more dry land training and more sport-specific training. Even though I was in the season for other sports, it was still sport-specific, whether that be once a week or twice a week. We still did stuff that was specific to our one sport while we were playing that other sport, just to kind of keep the same muscles going, even though we were using different muscles for the different sport.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Good stuff. Alrighty. Well, thank you guys for that. Kyle, we're going to keep you here. Sure. John, thank you very much. Now we're going to bring in Jason. So Jason is going to give us the nutritional side of being a multi-sport athlete.
This is actually a segment of ours.
Yes. What is it called, Quincy?
Better than yesterday.
Well done.
Yes, better than yesterday. Got it. New segment.
I feel like we should like Jason Varoxis.
Varoxis, yeah.
Jason Varoxis. Nice little jingle.
All right, Jase. Good to see you, man.
See you, boss.
Always. So, I mean, you've been listening in on this conversation. So, where does food and where does nutrition play a part? So, sports in general, you're going to have a certain diet. But say if a player is playing multiple sports during the same season, how does their diet look compared to another player that's maybe playing one sport?
It's a lot more complex, really. You've got to look at the performance aspect. You want to maintain that performance, and the biggest thing is the recovery aspect as well. If you're going between two different sports, balancing the different demands of the sports. Obviously, someone who's doing more of an endurance-based sport compared to a power-based sport has very different requirements and very different recovery requirements as well.
So now, I guess when you say power and endurance, when I think of, say, football, I think power. When I think of endurance, I think soccer. But then you have sports like hockey and lacrosse, once again, where I feel like that's a combination of power and endurance. How does that look? Do you just kind of scale, just kind of like power and endurance, and you kind of just balance it out type of deal? Or?
It's very positional specific as well. So
Okay.
the time and extent of the duration you're going to be on the field or on the ice, you really kind of have to balance that out as well. Someone who's very stationary, if someone's having some quick movements, might be in goals, it's going to have very, very different to an attacking player as well. Those short, sharp bursts of energies. And one thing you did say that I resonated with was that repeat effort, that repeat maximal effort. How do you feel yourself appropriately to keep coming back at that 100% intensity every single time? And making sure you've got that foundation for that's pivotal.
So, okay, I'm an athlete. I'm getting ready to prepare for the week. and I already know that if I have a game on Saturday and I'm trying to get ready on Friday, it's too late. What does my whole week look like, say, for a power player that, like a rugby player or something like that? What does that day in, day out diet look like? After practice, what am I eating? What am I filling up on? Like,
Absolutely. I think the three main things for performance-wise that you'd be looking at, number one is your carbohydrate intake.
Yeah.
And that's that really rapid burning energy. Think of that more as your rocket fuel, your E98 fuel. Second of all, protein intake, one of the most widely known. Nutrients there, it's rebuilding, it's recovery. Protein powder is one of the biggest known products on the market as well.
Yeah. You don't say.
That's a whole nother topic on itself, really. And one thing people don't think about is hydration as well. If you weighed yourself before you went out on the field or the ice and came back and you lost more than 2% of your body weight, you can guarantee yourself that 30% of your performance has gone out the window just from being dehydrated.
That is massive. Can you say that one more time? So, with the hydration.
Absolutely. So the best way to determine if you get too dehydrated when you're actually playing your sport is to weigh yourself prior to and then weigh yourself after. Also take into account if you've taken any fluid on board. But if you're looking at more than a 2% loss in your body weight, you're at risk of 30% of your performance going down the drain.
That's huge. Now, I know the difference, like I've done body scans and things like that, between intercellular and extracellular, like water retention. So pretty much that's just like the water that's within your stomach or something, and then the water that's actually the composition of your body. How do you, I guess, retain more into your body? Because I'm a person that it just seems like it goes through me. Like I'm drinking water, I'm like, there's no way I'm hydrated. Like I'll be hydrated within 30 minutes, but then an hour from now, then by looking at the urinal, I can tell that I'm like dehydrated or not as hydrated as I was before. How do you, I guess, increase your capacity for hydration, if that's possible?
It is possible, and it's the whole idea behind sports drinks and the technology behind those as well. That little bit of a sodium content is going to help retain more of that fluid within you as well. So, not saying that everyone should be on like a Gatorade or a Powerade product per se, but they do play their part, and especially in rehydrating as well, they can help to hold on to that fluid, because if you have a large fluid volume at once after your game, which a lot of athletes will do just to fill that void, it's going to go straight through you pretty quick and give you a false indication of being rehydrated. So,
as a percentage level, what would you say in regards to water in a sport drink? What should you take more of?
The funny thing with sports drinks as well, they can kind of double as a carbohydrate replacement if you need them during the sport, if it's a long enough duration. So anything where you've got a sustained effort over about 90 minutes, you probably want to look at adding some carbohydrate into your game regimen as well.
That's good to know.
So adding that in could be great. If you've got a fast turnaround to your next game, you really want to get that fuel of carbohydrate back in as well as the hydration. So sports drinks, again, optimal for those types of environments and situations.
So I think, especially when it comes down, you guys were talking about, you have games, you're driving, whether you're a college athlete or whether you're like your youth, you have, I know kids from Newcastle, they travel down to Sydney and vice versa. First thing people want to do, they want to go to the fast food.
Absolutely.
Okay. Can you give us a solution for the players that are playing multiple sports, need a quick recovery, need to refuel their bodies? What should they be doing instead of going to, I'm not going to say any companies, but instead of eating fast food, what alternatives should they be doing? And how can mom and dad help out with that?
I think preparation's key, and it can be as simple as your sandwiches. If you're doing bulk meals, things like pasta meals are fantastic for active athletes as well. Things like fast food with the heavy fat content, as long as the salt and the sugar content as well that's associated with it, it bogs you down. It slows everything down, and you're putting a real dampener on your ability to really perform at that maximum intensity at the end of the day. So a preparation goes a long way, and there's not a lot of good options generally on the road, especially in remote places. And even if you look at, I think, the canteen or tuck shop options at most sports places, I think you guys will agree that
deep fried chips,
pretty deep fried, and you're looking at a lot of shiny looking foods just because of that. It's the commercial aspect of it as well. It's cheap to produce, it's easy to cook. It lasts a long time as well. So all of those things are screaming profit.
So, do you have a cheat sheet? So, say if I am coming back, I don't want to go to a fast food. I may be only able to go to a service station, gas station, whatever you want to call it. Do you have a cheat for someone? I didn't prepare. I'm on the road. What do I do? Help me. I want to be a good athlete. Help me.
The basic things would be to go back to natural foods as much as possible. So if you're looking at, as I said, going to a prepared pasta, prepared sandwiches, sticking away from your meat pie options, as you said, the deep fry, the Chico rolls, the old fish and chips, again, they taste good, but to get the most out of your recovery, probably not the best option. There's even a lot of sports nutrition products now that are making their way into service stations as well. Again, some protein bars can fill that void as well of getting the carbohydrates and a bit of that protein for recovery. So modern food technology has really come a long way to give that assistance to athletes as well. And it's becoming more readily available and cheaper than what it used to be.
Now, is there a deadline in which an athlete should be done eating before they perform?
It's really up to tolerance. I know a lot of athletes in contact sports who can't eat for 3 and 4 hours before they go into their event because
I will eat up to the
and then people are having a full steak meal 5 or 10 minutes before, and they're fine. Nerves play a really interesting part in how you can handle food. And if you're struggling with handling some food beforehand, it's about making the digestion process easier for yourself. So let's break it down. Let's use some liquid options as well. So things that are a lot easier on your stomach at that point in time rather than that the old steak meal.
Absolutely. Not to go too far back in the conversation, but in regards to water, I think this is very important, staying hydrated and getting your water intake. Could you just give us a few bullet points on some of the extra benefits that water has?
Absolutely. Your cognition, when you're out there, you're going to get that foggy feeling when you're training. So your ability to make those quick and rapid decisions are basically flying out the window as soon as you start to become dehydrated as well. The biggest thing to think of, I think, though, for fluid is we're mostly made up of a water content.
Yes.
So to produce energy, it's a chemical reaction within your body. The less water you've got, less surface area you have for those reactions to happen. So you're limiting yourself about how much of that quick energy that you can produce to give you that rapid performance.
Absolutely. So much good nuggets. Yeah. Wow. I want to do a real life example here. So, Kyle, give us break down your meal before a game, and then we'll have Jase here dissect it.
Wow. So a typical away
No
game.
bluffing either.
Yeah.
Chipotle?
So let's say it's a Saturday away game. We wake up, we go to our lovely dining hall, have some delicious, I don't know where these scrambled eggs came from, but they're not your normal scrambled eggs. Like a hash brown or something, some potatoes. Get on the bus, eat some granola bars of some sort, some fruit, maybe a banana or two, and then maybe chug a Powerade or something, and then go. That's basically it. But yeah.
There's some good elements there really are. So
Thank God for that.
Wow.
I knew it. I knew it all.
absolutely, and that's the thing. So you've got some fantastic things. So the fruit is a fantastic carbohydrate source as well to give you that rapid burning energy. It's more of a slower release product into your body. Things like your sports drinks, they get in there nice and quick. So that's that rapid burning energy. If you're having that a bit closer to when you're actually hitting the paddock or the ice, whatever you might do, that's what you want. Some of the areas for improvement could be a little bit earlier on where you've got scrambled eggs. Generally commercial environments, you're looking at butter, you're looking at creams, you're looking at full cream milk, heavy fat content. And fat is so hard for your body to handle and break down, it just slows everything down. And it's not the right environment that you really want that. Same as a hash brown, it's going to be deep fried, soak up all that extra fat content, not what you want prior to that sport. You want to make sure that you're not hindering that process to produce energy rapidly. Absolutely.
Alrighty. Well
That's
then,
good, man.
Jason, thank you for that.
Thanks for tuning in for this week's episode. If you like what you've heard, subscribe to us on YouTube or iTunes. We want your input on this week's discussion. Let us know on our Twitter poll at Grassroots_AU. Do you think athletes should participate in multiple sports? Don't forget to check out our other social media platforms, Grassroots_sports on Instagram and Grassroots Sports on Facebook. Head head over to grassroots-sports.com.au and sign up for the Grassroots Sport newsletter for exclusive content and competitions. Enjoy your week, and we'll see you next time on the Grassroots Podcast.